Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky!
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Named the dog Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints.
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my man who loves a good early 2000 soundtrack as the end credits roll. It's Frank. How are you today?
Hey, I am good. I am feeling nostalgic, and I am feeling ready to talk about what we're talking about today. How are you, buddy?
I'm feeling pretty much the same way, actually. Nostalgic. A little ready to talk about what we're going to talk about today. Probably other things, but I'm really mostly interested in what beer you're drinking right now.
I am drinking. So a quick backstory. I went to Canada for a few days for a long weekend recently, and had a great time. It was lovely. Montreal's a beautiful city. You feel like you're in Europe, even though you're in North America. It's amazing. But on the way back, I stopped at a duty-free shop, and I found the most I think this is the best deal on beer that I have ever seen, ever. They had a Belgian beer variety pack, 12-pack, 6 beers, 2 of each, for 13 Canadian dollars for a 12-pack.
What?
That's like $9 or $10 US for 12 beers. 12 Belgian beers.
That's an excellent deal. And a
Outstanding
really excellent deal.
I couldn't pass it up. So for the next several episodes, I'll be drinking Belgians, and so that is why, Tim, I stepped away before we started recording to grab a quote unquote special beer, because I've got these lined up now, and I had this in the fridge, chilling in the fridge. So it is all stuff from the Unibrew line of beers. So that includes things like La Fin du Monde, and other beers you may have heard of. This one I was not familiar with, I don't think I've had it before, and it is a saison. It is a Belgian style saison ale. It is Blonde de Chambly, and it is delightful. It's delightful. And I'm sort of hit or miss with saisons. This is very fruity, not sour. And it is it's fantastic. It's fantastic. It is 5%, and I am enjoying the heck out of it. So be prepared to hear from me talking about Belgian beers for the next couple weeks.
Okay. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I love a good Belgian beer. So I hope that they are all good and all enjoyable, and that you love every single one of them. So I am not drinking a special beer necessarily, but I do have something special to go along with it, which is a very I'll get there. So I finally did go to the store, and I got myself a new Pick 6, but I got ×2, so I got 12 new beers waiting for me in the fridge. So I'm good for a while. I'm good for 12 episodes or so. And I also picked up just picked up some regular old gluten-free Omission,
nice.
the golden ale, just something light, gluten-free, makes you feel good, blah blah blah. It's just really a taste thing. But I'm going to open said bottle on the cool thing, which is my Velociraptor bottle opener.
That's so cool.
Isn't that cool? So it is made out of metal, and it is a full-size replica of Alan Grant's Velociraptor claw from Jurassic Park. So, again, they come at you with this.
That looks sleek as hell. It looks like Wow, that is cool.
It's actually even really kind of heavy. Like it's solid.
I was gonna say it looks heavy. It looks like it has some heft to it.
It definitely has some heft to it. So I'm just going to open my beer with it somehow. However, this thing actually works because I have yet to use it, and so I know there was a special way to go about it. Oh, look at that! It works so good.
Oh.
And there's heft in the back, so it puts pressure on the back of the bottle to lift the cap up. But yeah, this thing is cool. I ordered this. I couldn't even tell you how long ago, like a long time ago. Yeah, and it's just been I've just been waiting and waiting and waiting months and months and months and months for this thing to come in. So totally worth it. Great bottle opener. Goes on my shelf. You think that it's a piece of, shelf decoration, but it's also my beer opener. So life is good. Mm-hmm.
Which omission are you enjoying tonight again?
I am enjoying the Ultimate Light Golden Ale. So it's
Ultimate
the 3
Light.
carbs, 99 calorie beer. So it's like barely beer. But, when you have a full day of eating and stuff and you're recording a little bit late, you don't really want heavy beer.
I hear that. And as somebody, I've mentioned this before, I have type 1 diabetes, so low carb definitely appeals to me for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's got a
good
good taste. It has a good taste. It tastes like beer. And I think that's the important part about any gluten-free, low carb, like the Mick Ultras of the world or the what was the
Glutenberg
Miller 66 when that was the thing. I miss Miller 66. I actually really liked that one.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, we both enjoyed that.
No,
one.
It's Miller 64.
64.
Yeah,
64.
Miller 64 to Miller 64. Yeah, that was a goodie. Well, what are you gonna do though? What are you going to do? So, Frank.
Yeah.
I just need somebody to save me. Oh yes.
Nice.
Oh man, good stuff. So Frank, a couple weeks ago, I needed some like quality television that I could veg to and not think about, like have on while I was moving stuff or getting stuff ready for work, or basically anything that like would make me feel good, but also my wife would tolerate. Like it was like if I was watching, like if I'm watching in my office is one thing, but it's not too scary, it's not too loud, like slight investment, like that kind of thing. So I landed on going back and restarting watching Smallville because of truthfully because of your podcast. I was like in the mood because of your anthology. So we actually want to plug that before we go any further into this.
Sure, why not? Save Me, the Smallville anthology. We are, oh gosh, by the time you hear this, episode 4 might be out, but we're a little over halfway through 6 episodes chronicling the whole run of Smallville and how it was made, and talking to people who were fans and creators, and hearing from the people who were there, the creators and the actors and everybody else, how it all got made, and it premiered almost 20 years ago now.
That's wild. Yeah. So anyway, I was like, oh, I should watch this. So, and I thought I would go through it pretty slowly because I've seen it a few times and whatever else. But all of a sudden, I just got re-sucked into this show. And I'm the first 2 seasons down. I'm down 2 seasons right now. So I thought, let's do every 2 seasons. Let's do a little bit of a retrospect on Smallville. And because this is not a movie, this is outside of the superhero slapback. This is this is its own thing. This is just me revisiting something from my youth.
There you go.
Yeah, and I've said on this podcast before, I've definitely told you that I never really cared for the first season too much because like it was always like the freak of the week, like what person's he battling this week, blah, blah, blah. And I was all in on freak of the week this go around. I have no idea what happened to me, but maybe it was because like it's like it's just one thing, and I just like thinking about this one thing, and that's all that matters. And I partly I think that helped. But it helped that my wife was watching it for the first time, and she doesn't watch every episode. She just watches like whichever one like I'm watching and is on down there. But she's like, I love that I can walk in, miss 4 episodes, and still know what's going on. And that was big for her because she just finds it very charming. I'll put it on for maybe 10 seconds. She's like, I'll put my PJs on. I was like, I'll start an episode and I'll watch the rest of it later. And she comes in, she's like, oh, well, now I'm invested. And she sits down and she'll watch the rest of the episode. I'm like, it's been on for a minute. Like, we haven't even gotten to save me.
I love it. I love that she is that into it. I don't think I would have expected that. Did you expect that from her?
No, I honestly didn't because, she's 6 years younger than I am. So Smallville is a little bit outside of her, watch. She was, because I was Clark's age, right? I was Clark's age, quote unquote. I was 14 when it started. And so she was a little below the thing. And truthfully, superheroes are not really her thing, but I think she likes it because because it's early 2000s and that's kind of fun. And it's not to go back to that and she'd be like, oh, Chloe's hair, what is happening? Every episode, she's the clothes, the music, the emotion, and it's all kind of camp, but it's still so earnest. And so it's utterly watchable from start to finish, and she finds Tom Welling super charming. He's just oh, Clark, you're just so Clark. And yeah,
I mean, he's so earnest. He's so as much as he was 23 playing 14.
He definitely don't look 14.
He is very. No, he does not look anything. It's laughable. He looks as much 14 as Tobey Maguire looked like a high schooler, it's just no. But he is so earnest that he sells it, and maybe not someone sells the age, but just sells that he really believes the things he's saying, that he really just he's a good kid, he just sells that.
Well, that's actually really what struck me going back and watching season 1 over again, is just how much of a good kid he is. And not just because he's I gotta save Lana, or I gotta save my dad, or any of this, but he is legitimately just I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to be nice to everybody that I meet, and I'm just going to believe what I say when I say it. And I think that I noticed that he doesn't do that as much in the second season, watching them so close together. I was he does believe what he says, but he's a little bit more secretive in the second season, partly out of necessity because his friends are always Clark, what's your big secret, eh? What's your big secret, eh? What's your big secret, eh? And so I can understand him always retreating a bit, but he's a little bit more cagey by the time season 2 rolls around. But in that first season, he is just so not naive, but he is. But he's just so willing to believe in people, and I think that is what is so beautiful about the first season of the show, because you can, even when he's supposed to be quote unquote 14, he is absolutely the Superman archetype, because he's just so willing to be yes, you're a good person, and I love you. I didn't say that, but I love you,
He is. He is just so open with people. And I think that's, if Tom wasn't able to sort of sell it, everything else would fall apart. It wouldn't work if he wasn't anchoring it all and able to sort of to convince you that he really is means the things he says, feels the things he feels. There is a quote in the first season where he sort of play on the I stand for truth, justice, and other stuff. And it's when he says other stuff, there's not an attitude to it. Like when they in Superman Returns, when Frank Langella's Perry White says like, truth, justice, all that stuff. It was like, okay, clearly they took the American way out of it because like that doesn't play anymore nowadays. But when he said it, when Tom said like truth, justice, and other stuff, it was like earnest, and it was like, well, you're a kid, you don't know what the other stuff is. Like it just played more honest. It felt more sincere. Like you haven't figured it out yet. Yep. And that there's something about that where he can make that work.
Yeah, I feel like there are characters in this show that feel like they're authentic people, and then there are those that are like, oh, you're definitely in a television show, and that's not and that's not a slight against them, but like Michael Rosenbaum is in a television show. He's great Lex, but like the way that he like turns and like plays with the camera, the way he delivers his lines to Clark, I'm like, you're in a show. Like, and that's part of, in some ways, that's even part of Lex's thing. Like he's always putting on a show. So the way that he even speaks to people is like not being vulnerable. So it works. And then of course, like you have John Glover's Lionel, which is like very much in that style. A lot of the guest stars, whatever else, they're playing to their soap styles almost. But I think the Kents are just remarkably earnest. Like they're just in their own, which also plays to how like sincere they are or unique they are as a family, because everybody else around them is on a soap opera. Yes. And then you have this close-knit 3-person family that like you believe they really do love each other. They really care about their son. He really cares about his parents and the farm and the town and all of that stuff. And I just think that I when I was a kid, even going into adult, I think that the best Kents were the Lois and Clark Kents, because they're wonderful. They are. They're on a television show. The Smallville Kents are real people with real concerns, and you just like, I have great parents. I love my parents very much. You look at the Kents and you're like, wow, like be my parents.
Yeah, totally. I feel the same way. I love my parents. I have a great relationship with my parents. I adore them. But yes, John Schneider and Annette O'Toole make you wish that Jonathan and Martha were your parents. And I agree with you. Up until then, the Kents from Lois and Clark were my favorite. But this kind of blows them out of the water. It's also a very different take on the Kents. It's the first time you see a younger middle-aged couple playing the Kents versus an elderly couple. It's almost always an older couple who adopts baby Clark, right? Yep. It's almost always like, oh, they were older, they couldn't have children, and they had settled into their older age, and then this baby fell from the heavens. But in this case, it not only sort of, they are more sort of the typical age of a parents of a teenager, but it's also like that made it more like they were able to relate to him easier, right? And given this was like a teen drama, let's face it, that aspect and that angle really mattered, and it resonated with a lot of people. I mean, I've heard so many clips of John Schneider talking about how like big burly men will come up to him and be like, I wish I had the relationship with my dad that you have with Clark. Like that's a thing that really affected people, affected men, to see this like affectionate, loving, caring father-son, healthy father-son relationship modeled for them.
Yep.
It made them wish they had that,
And what I actually really love about their relationship with Clark is they are his parents. They are they're not his friends. They're not his cool aunt and uncle. They're not even really his adoptive parents. Like he's like, oh, I know you're not real. They are his parents through and through. The way that they talk to him, the way that they care about him, are nervous for him, and how he responds to them. Like he doesn't get away with stuff. Like they're harder on him than almost anybody, except maybe himself. Clark is really his own worst enemy in a lot of ways. And it's really refreshing to watch all the time. I would say that Kristen Cruick is also like she does sit a little bit in the Ernest category, in the early in the early seasons. Maybe I can't remember much like as I go up how things change necessarily, but like she feels. Her character certainly shifts between 1 and 2. She like starts as this like I'm dating the football player and I'm on the cheer squad and blah blah blah, and she becomes more of a she's not just the girl next door anymore. She becomes like her own. She has her own identity.
Yes,
and I liked that transformation. It felt, even though I always laugh at like, oh, this 15-year-old is like running a coffee shop.
I know, I know exactly. Yeah.
Don't you have school? I guess the only thing that I think the show is like any show set in a hospital or a school, like, don't you actually like do the thing that you're there to do in the building? Like, what is happening? So
it's true. It's true. Yeah. But no, she does have this earnestness, especially in season 1, I feel like. And the whole thing is like that she was on the cheer squad because she was like, quote unquote, supposed to. And she was dating the football player because she was like sort of supposed to. But as those things fall away, she finds herself more. And I really have come to appreciate that more and more over the years, the more I watch it. And she does, her character does have a transformation, but it's gradual enough that it feels authentic. There can come a point where you look at like season 7 or something and then look back at season 1 and you're like, how is this the same character? But it's a gradual change over time, and you sort of watch it happen bit by bit, and one decision, one step at a time. But yeah, I think she also has that earnestness going on, and she's very well matched with Clark. I mean, Tom and Kristen have incredible on-screen chemistry. I've always felt
they do. Absolutely. Yeah. There really isn't anybody that feels like a weak link, which I think is, and characters that do have a strong link, they were smart enough to be like, yeah, come on the show, John Glover, because the show is better with you on it. And like every time he shows up, you're like, yeah, Lionel Luther. And
he was he brought on for the pilot, and they were like, maybe he'll show up a few more times. But I mean, he was a consistent guest star for 8 or 9 years, 8 years, I think, 7, 8 years.
He's full cast in season 2.
Yeah,
right. Yeah. So didn't really guess, but yeah, he's the best. What I was laughing about when you notice like what sets have been built between seasons 1 and 2, and everything like that. Like, where do you end up, and where do they shoot, and where do they film? And they go to the hospital a lot in season 2. Oh my goodness! Like every other episode, they're like, "Here we are at the hospital again." Like somebody's
we spent money on building this hospital set, and we are gonna use it.
And they do a lot.
Yep.
Like they're either in the Kent kitchen or at the hospital. Those are like the Luther Mansion. Those are the 3 main sets over and over and over again. But I couldn't get over how much is in the hospital.
Because season 2, you have the Martha pregnancy, right? So like that's there's a lot of that.
Spoilers for that. I completely forgot that.
Did you forget that?
Semi-responsible. No, I completely forgot that Clark is semi-responsible for the miscarriage.
Oh yeah.
Which I just think is devastating.
Oh,
there's a lot of emotional turmoil going on across the board. Like Lex almost gets married twice in one season.
Yes,
it's a lot happening.
Desiree and Helen.
That's right.
Yeah.
I liked Helen, and I forgot I don't exactly remember what the twist with Helen is, so I'm looking forward to diving back into season 3 to feel like, because I don't remember, which is fun it's also fun to go back and just not remember.
Yeah.
When's
the last time? So I know you and Palmer from your co-host on Academy Rewind were doing sort of a slow rewatch of it for a little bit there. But when's the last time? It was a slow rewatch.
Yeah, every Monday we would watch like an episode or 2. And we got all the way up to season 6 or 7.
You got that far? Wow. Okay.
Yeah, when I say years, it was a long time, and that stopped when I got married, because he was coming to my house on his way home from work to hang out or record or whatever, and that's what we would do every Monday. But then when I moved to Rhode Island, before I got married, I was living in the house and my wife wasn't living here yet, and so he would sometimes come like when just to record, so like once a month, and we would sometimes do an episode, sometimes not, and then I got married, and then COVID happened, and then he hasn't come in a while, so I really haven't watched the show in about 2-3 years, something like that.
So you haven't watched it at all in 2 or 3 years, but that was season 6, so it's probably another 2 years before that since you watched the seasons you're watching now.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. So it is really, really fresh, and it's just so fun to hear like the early 2000s music. Like, it's just like bringing me back to my own time in high school, and now that I actually, well, I guess I've always worked in a high school, but like I'm like working at my alma mater now, so it just like I'm hearing the music that like it's just wild. Like, it's just all weirdly coming together in my brain.
That's got to be a real trip. Yeah. Because like you're walking the same halls that you were walking when like, One Republic or whatever was current music. Like, that's
correct.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm watching the show in its first season and second season, walking the same halls that I watched like when I was watching it when it aired in its first or second season.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a weird little trip down memory lane. So, and I'm loving it. I have been known to make fun of the show a lot. But like, you make fun of things that you love.
Yeah, lovingly.
Yeah, right. You make fun of a TV show you love, your wife, whatever, lovingly you make fun of them. And so I tell her the day I stop making fun of her is the day that she has to worry. That's the rule. So
I like that. I think that's good.
That's she'll know. If I ever stop teasing you, we have a problem. But but it's like it's really, really well put together. And because like my wife and I are watching Xena at the same time, and we're watching the show called Miranda, which we've also talked about on here, and so like to watch these other shows that were filmed about the same time, and like Smallville's leaps ahead of what some I'm gonna compare more to Xena, just because you have these two sci-fi fantasy concept, but like the product they're pumping out in their first seasons is vastly different. And they're really only separated by 5 or 6 years of production.
Yeah, it is. It is very much like a 21st century, drama, teen drama. Like it is a different. Even though it's only a few years separated from, say, a Xena or a Dawson's Creek or something like that. I mean, I guess the first few seasons it was on with Dawson's Creek, but I digress. Even though it's only a few years separated, it is like a different breed, even different from like a Buffy or something like that. It is a little bit more refined, and a little bit more knows what it is right out the gate.
Yep.
And it evolved after that and became something different. But it knew what it wanted to be from the start, and it did that very, very well. And I think those first 2 seasons is sort of a they're as much as season 1 and 2 are different. It definitely became more refined in season 2, more sophisticated. It was like the same show, just an evolution of the same show. By the time, you haven't started season 3 yet? Is that correct?
I have not started season 3 yet. No.
And so I think you'll feel in season 3 and certainly by season 4, it goes in a very different direction. You remember? I know you remember.
I do remember. I definitely remember 4 being in quite a different direction and not really caring for 4. But even but I remember loving 3. And and that's okay. It's definitely more of a connected story starting in season 3. Like, there's a bit of that in season 2 with the Kawachi Caves and everything, but it's kind of still a little bit in the periphery.
Yep.
But like big stuff, more big things happen more frequently as the show kind of goes on, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you're right about that. It becomes more and more, serialized as the show goes on, where you kind of have. You were saying that your wife appreciates that she can miss a couple episodes and hop back in, and that's still the case to a degree.
You can. Yeah, I mean, like this is Helen. It's Lex's fiance. She's like, all right.
Exactly. Yeah, that kind of thing. But it definitely becomes. It's definitely more episodic in those first couple seasons. There's more of the freak of the week type of storyline where it's sort of like, oh, this guy, he bugs. He's a bug boy. That's it. That's all you need to know. Bees. She controls bees. Amy Adams is hungry all the time. That's all you need to know. Amy Adams on the show. Can we talk about Amy Adams?
I know. I think that's actually the episode that I really got Mary to watch. Like, really start watching it, because she was watching like here and there before, but then all of a sudden Amy Adams showed up. She watched the whole episode. She's like, I'm going to bed. 30 minutes later, like she's eating a deer, and you're like, I thought you were going to bed. She's like, no, I need to know what happens. And
Amy Adams is eating a deer. I'm not going to leave now.
No, I need to know what happens. Yeah, so. Yeah, it's been a heck of a ride, and I can't wait to dive into the next bits to see how it evolved. And watching it in quick chunks has also been helpful, to keep seeing it progress the way that it's going. Yeah, it's just been so stupidly fun. And part of it, I think, is also nice that you know how it resolves, so you're not like looking for like, oh, when are they going to reference Superman? Like, when I need something, now I can, like, going backward, you can just enjoy the ride for what it is. And I'm like, oh, the ship's talking. That's cool. Like, oh, yeah. Christopher Reeve, there you are. It's wonderful.
That's a big one. Yeah.
I love, just on an end note for that episode where he, like, goes to meet, Professor Dr. Swan, and, like, this is it. The Christopher Reeve's line delivery of protect him and deliver him from evil is pitch perfect. Like, it's so good, like, because it's so fast, like it's such a pronounced but quick, like, oh man, it's great. It's so good.
And that meant a lot to him personally. So like he poured his heart into that, and it shows.
Oh, it does. Yeah, it's Christopher Reeve was a very, very fine actor, and and despite his setbacks, he could still really sell it and make it work, and I think that is really a testament to the power that he had on screen. So, good stuff.
Agreed. Well, I look forward to doing more of these sort of Smallville checkpoints with you every couple seasons. As you continue your rewatch, but I'm glad you're enjoying it. I'm glad your wife's enjoying it with you, and I think that's super fun and in an unexpected way. But I think that's great. If you enjoyed this, and if you think that this episode was worth $1, we would love to have that $1. If you want to head over to Patreon and search for Thought Bubble Audio, that would mean a lot to us. $1 a show would help us a lot in continuing to do this show and Academy Rewind we mentioned earlier, and shows like Hate Watch with us and all the other shows on the Thought Bubble Audio network over at thoughtbubbleaudio.com. This show, Beer with Geeks, you can find at beerwithgeeks.com. You can find on any podcast player, and you can rate and review us in any podcast player, especially Apple Podcasts, but anywhere you get your podcast would mean a lot to us. You can tweet at us at Beer with Geeks and email us beerwithgeeks@gmail.com. And those are the ways you can contact us, help us out, support us in all the various ways across the internet. Tim, it has been a pleasure hanging out with you and talking Smallville.
Yeah, man, it has been great to talk to you too, and I can't wait to talk to you some more. So until next time, cheers.
Cheers.